Welcome back, future doctors and medical enthusiasts. Hey, come here. I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered how medical students master the lectures and make it look easy? Click on that subscription bell and open yourself to a whole new world of information just like this. Stay here and let me show you how to master your lectures. Check it out. Hey guys, my name is Julio Ambriz. I'm a second-year medical student and I've spent the last 2 years learning how to master my lectures, and I want to share with you what I've learned. Have you ever wondered how your classmate answers the questions over the lecture you just went over that day with ease? I've definitely been there before I knew these secrets, so let's get you out of there. I've broken down my lectures into these 3 steps of spatial repetition. You have pre-read, attending lecture, and post-read. Spatial repetition has been my guiding tool to learn my lectures and material quickly and efficiently. So let's go ahead and get started with step 1, pre-read. There are a few ways to approach this, but here's my take on how I do it. The night before the lecture, I spent only 15 minutes per lecture reading it out loud. That way I'm not only going over the material and reading it, but I'm hearing myself say it out loud too. Some of my friends will read their lectures and highlight key phrases and material that they don't understand or is new to them in one color so they can go back to it and pay attention to it when they're doing their lectures. So the key here is to spend no more than 15 minutes per lecture and doing it the night before your lecture, because when you do these things at night, you typically have better retention for the next day. Step number 2, attending lecture. During lecture, I usually have my iPad out next to me while I'm listening to lecture. I typically write down things of importance or link material to old lectures and highlight material when the professor talks about it. By doing this, I'm being more active in my learning. Also, try to make sure your notes and your highlighter colors are consistent. I wasn't always good at this, but when I did do it, it made my life so much easier. By the time I was done doing this, I had already seen lecture 2 times now. If you'd like to see some example of my notes, go ahead and look at my Instagram page right here. Alright guys, step 3, post-read. Now this step is a little bit more tricky because it depends on what you have available when it comes to your resources. Now, I've done all of the following and I found them extremely helpful throughout my 2 years. I would create a 1-pager per lecture. Basically, I would skim the lecture and write down the high-yield topics, which are the recurring themes and main topics. I would always look for understanding the why of each topic. Another thing I did was use Anki cards. I would approach this in 2 ways. I would first try to use the pre-made decks that I had and unsuspend the cards over the topics of that day, or if I couldn't find any, I would just make my own cards. Another thing I did was create charts or tables. Now, they would be over information like micro, drugs, things that I had to rote memorize. This was helpful for me in the long run because all I needed to do was put Control F to find information that I needed to review. I would also watch medical videos. Things like Pixarize, Boards of Beyond, Sketchy, Pathoma, and so on, just over the material that I went over for that day. To be honest, I tend to mix and match these methods all the time. Just remember that when you are doing your post-reads, they should be no longer than 1 to 1.5 hours, depending on how your lecture is structured. My school only does 2 lectures per day, mixed in with a whole bunch of other things throughout the day. Each lecture is jam-packed with tons of integrative information, usually running between 30 to 100 slides, depending on the material. Some of the things I mentioned can be done after your post-read to sort of supplement your learning. Now, this is no longer post-read, this is called supplemental studies. For those of you guys that have made it this far, you know what time it is. It's bonus tip time. Now for today's bonus tips, I have 2 things that you should not be doing when it comes to mastering your lectures. Number 1, do not rewrite your slides. I know this sounds sort of weird, but a lot of times when you're in undergrad, you tend to sort of rewrite the slides because you feel like that's helping you memorize things. I can promise you now, it is not, and it will not be good for long-term retention. The last tip for the day is do not cram. People think they can cram before quizzes or exams. That does not work in medical school. My advice is don't try it, don't start it, don't even think about it, because in the long run, it's not gonna help you for your step exam. Remember, it's a cumulative exam. It's over everything you've learned. Cramming will not help you in this case. So to recap, you'll master your lectures every day if you do the following. Pre-read, no longer than 15 minutes. Attend lecture, take good notes, and post-read. Don't do it longer than 1 to 1.5 hours. In the end, guys, you need to approach your lectures with a very specific mindset. I'm going to master the material presented in class by the end of each day. If you have this attitude towards your lectures, it will save you a lot of stress and heartache as you study. Now, guys, I would love to hear back from you guys on this method. Let me know if you tried it and you love it or you hate it. Comment below on how you prefer to approach your lectures. And don't forget to tag your fellow classmates because sometimes you need a new perspective on something you've been doing for a while. Thanks again, guys, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell to stay up to date on these videos. And remember, you'll never know what you'll learn when you think medical. See you next week.